Welcome to another episode of Tripping Off, and today is a fan requested one. But unbeknownst to them, really, we had our last quarterly meeting a couple weeks ago, and an interesting topic came up. One that has personally affected me many times as well, which is we work with the most painful and difficult client stories. And when you are hearing somebody's traumatic and painful story, it is very easy to be sucked into their trance, to believe
Very
the
easy.
same things that they believe, to accidentally validate the lies that they tell themselves. And so the question is, Zach, how do I keep myself from falling into my clients' trances?
I really wish it was that easy. That sounds
Yeah,
so good.
it does. It's a nice, simple question with a complex answer. And maybe that's like the benefit of us talking about this together because I
Yeah,
think I think you're seeing
we
like
gotta
sort of the
talk through it.
spider web of all the ways and all the things I have to describe in order to get to that point, the intersection of healthy hypnotherapy. My answer is a little more philosophical. So I think you'll probably give a lot more practical steps. Mine will be a little bit more about the approach that I take in thinking about this very real problem when working with client struggles.
Yeah, and I have to validate to anybody that's watching this, it's so hard. We're talking about trauma. We're talking about some of the worst trauma,
Yeah.
and I think that it's so difficult. Even if we give a simple answer, there's a good one-liner that sticks today for you. It's still a practice. It's still something that you need to work through. It's still something that you need to do over and over and over and get your reps in. Um, though I think it can be simplified in an answer. We can talk about this for the next 30 podcasts.
Maybe it's another 3 hour lecture inside of the course itself.
Yeah.
Maybe we add it as like an add-on because it's good. And like I don't know about for you, but for me, I remembered those moments when a client would come in and tell me their story and they finish the story and I'm sitting there just staring at them. And I'm like, what am I supposed to say?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to say? Like, you know, the heart inside of me wants to help them feel better. And so if I make them feel better though, I run the risk of minimizing the pain that they're in.
Hmm.
Giving them options or different ways of thinking about the situation, but those different ways of thinking about it invalidate in some sense the pain and the trauma that they've been through. On the other hand, perhaps I empathize and acknowledge, but inside of empathizing and acknowledging, I run the risk of validating the lies that they've
Yeah.
told themselves about like, well, this is all my fault. This is my struggle because I should have done this better or that better, and I certainly don't want to validate that. So I'm stuck. And so the experience for me was just sitting there in silence, staring at the client, almost petrified because I didn't know what to do. And from 10 years of experience plus, I've developed some ways to respond
Yeah.
that I would love to
Well,
share and perhaps shortcut that painful experience for others so they can help clients more effectively.
and not only that, like an umbrella thing about both of the things that you just said is as far as what we need to watch out for is unconscious projection.
Yeah.
The client may be saying something that's an issue of mine, that's a trance that I live
Oh,
in, that is a trance that I don't even know that I have, and a belief that I don't even know that I have. And then when their trance instigates the trance that I already have, and then that one pops up, and then I'm just gonna unconsciously validate that trance in both of the ways that you just described.
yeah.
And so it becomes, exceedingly more complicated at that point too.
Well, I think those are the clients that are the most difficult to work with are the
Yeah.
ones whose struggles most accurately represent our own because those are areas of my life that I haven't fully solved. It's almost easier to work with clients whose experience is totally different because you can see an objective reality or truth that they may not be able to because they're in it.
But then we're drawn to the topics that affected us the most too.
Because we're the most passionate about them.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with student counselors. Like Jeffrey Kotler, who's written many, many books about counseling, said this in a lecture that I got to attend and work with him. He said, when you look at the efficacy of counseling, it doesn't have a lot to do. Like the biggest factor is not the experience of the therapist. The
Sure.
biggest factor is the empathy.
Yeah.
And so his thought was that sometimes the passion of a new counselor can compensate for a lack of experience
Mm.
because they're passionate and really invested and really connected to the work because they are so focused and so new. Where a counselor who has been doing it for a long time may not be as invested in the work because it's just another day in the office for them.
Yeah.
Um, so,
I mean, my therapist is a good example of that. When I first started seeing her, still 5 years ago,
yeah,
she was a registered intern,
that's great.
and she had the life experience and the passion and all of the personality that I needed. But yeah, I had close to 10 years experience on her when we first started working together. She's been great for me.
That's amazing. So,
Yeah.
what would you tell somebody? Like a budding hypnotherapist who's taken the course, or even just a good friend?
I would start off with that big fat problem word, I. We get caught in that. And that's like the on road, the onboarding, the way to get on the highway of falling into somebody's trance. When my self-talk starts turning to what do I do?
Hmm.
And the I that's behind that, in a good way, but still in a very egoic way. It's a statement of connection to the subject matter rather than that person in front of you. Like, what do I do is usually pertaining to what do I do about this topic or this trance, rather than
Hmm.
actually empathizing with the experience of this person. It's usually out of a fear of the experience, trying to solve the experience of the person, rather than that empathetic connection with that person in their experience right there in the moment, that belly button to belly button experience.
Yeah. I had a follower on social media take some words that I said, I think it was randomly in a live that I did on TikTok, and put it on a framed picture and mailed it to me. And it sits in my office in Winter Park still. And the quote was, "You're not a problem to be fixed, but a person to be loved."
Yeah,
And so I think when you introduce that I, like I'm the counselor, all of this stuff comes with it. I need to fix it. I need to use some tools. I need to make this better for them. And that's the moment when it all falls apart. And it's so early on that you can think maybe I should change this, maybe I should do this, maybe I should use that technique. But the problem happens way before we even start to think about the technique that we should use. It's I need to help. I need to fix. I need to solve. And that's just, you're already on the wrong path.
yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I think so. It's
Yeah.
the buying into that, which can be great for hypnosis if used correctly. But it's buying into that idea that we're the special ones. And we have something to add that the client can't add for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. The I is not helpful. You said a word there. You said I rather than empathize. You
Hmm.
said we use the word I rather than empathizing with the client, but I think that's the problem. I don't think a lot of people know what empathizing
That's a
means,
really good point.
especially because that word is so just muddied by the conversations that happen in pop culture and online with social media. And, I find that many times in social media, it's very much the pinnacle of being a human being is to be an empath. And I just don't think
Yes.
that's true. Everyone's like, oh, well, I'm an empath, so like it's really tough for me. And it's like, that's so dumb. And I talk about it in my short videos all the time of like, being an empath is not like a bragging right. It's an issue.
Yeah.
I think the clinical term is codependence.
Yeah.
Um,
It can be.
empathy in the way that it's used online in that context is not a diagnosable or identifiable thing in the DSM.
Yeah.
That's not a clinical term. I don't know what that means to people, and it certainly seems to have gotten muddier as time has gone on. And so I think perhaps we need to start with a definition of like, well, what do you mean then if you say empathy?
I think that's great. Can you just, for anybody paying attention to this, uh, can you actually say more about that though? Because I think that that was really deep and really, really
Mm.
important. Uh,
Do you want me to say more about the problem or what the correct,
the
what I think the correct definition should be?
both, because being an empath does not mean true empathy. Is
Like, it depends on what you mean when you say empath.
Sure, what most people mean on when they say
Yeah.
that on social media is just like, just because you say that you're an empath and you feel something that is uh, uh, ruminating ruminating in somebody else, or like, better word, emanating from somebody else.
Yeah.
Just because you can feel that doesn't mean that you're empathizing with them.
No, no. And even before you get there, the question that's in my mind is, are you just projecting? Because so many people are like, oh, I'm an empath. And then I watch them in conversations in like a party or a group. And it's
Yeah.
just like, actually, you're pissing me off, is what you're doing, because you're just assuming that everybody else feels the exact way that you feel about this same topic, which is ignorant and arrogant and not sensitive in something that we teach in grad school. It's culturally insensitive. It makes me upset. Like to the same level that like racism like makes me upset. Because it is. It's like, oh well, I don't worry about that stuff. I was at I was at Walmart with my wife on Saturday. We're recording this on Monday, and we went there because we had we're moving soon, got to get some boxes, and so we're loading up the stuff that we bought from Walmart, and over by Walmart you hear this scream. And it was a really good scream too. Like I like metal music. It was a good one. It had some tone, it had some pitch to it. A yell, like not like a terrifying scream, but like an aggressive metal music scream. And I was like, okay, okay, hold on. Tall guy. I'm looking. Okay, where did that come from? Oh, over there. You see some person with very disheveled hair and a bicycle, and they're throwing traffic cones into the like street. And then they scream again, and they hop, they're walking this way, grab their bicycle, and they scurry off that way. And it was this moment where I like look at my wife, and I'm like, I could see in her eyes the difference in the response that she felt versus how I felt. And I was like, baby, I can't imagine what that must be like for you. It's like here I am, a 6 foot tall white man who like goes to the gym very frequently, like feels very confident in my ability to care for and protect myself. And I know that you don't feel that same way for yourself. And she's like, yeah, that stuff is really scary. She's like, that's why I don't go shopping at Walmart with Ollie, my son. She's like, I only ever go to the grocery store like that when he's being watched by grandma
Oh,
because
interesting.
I never want to put him in harm's way. And I know, and she said she's like, I know that I can be violent and aggressive when the time comes, but I also know the limitations of like my physical abilities, and somebody bigger and more powerful like could overpower me. And so she's like, yeah, it's a constant thought in my head when I'm in these
Mm.
spaces, and I'm like, that's not my experience. And so here I am, it would be easy for me to empathize with my wife, thinking that she feels the same way that I do, but she does not. She
Yeah.
feels a completely different way. And so, real empathy for me was demonstrated in that moment where I put myself in her shoes and realized how terrifying the world must be from her perspective.
So this is great. Ma- Going back to TikTok diagnoses.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. It's my new passion project.
what I'm about to say. Maybe because my reaction to that was curiosity.
Okay.
My reaction was just like, I don't know what that means. My
Hmm.
reaction to that was, oh, I'm so curious about this. And then I had the thought, I wonder if somebody who identifies as an empath would automatically know what that feels like, or think that they would know what that feels like. Then a next thought that came into my head was, well, they don't. How could they? her experience is unique to its own, and you did a beautiful thing there, recognizing that she had a different physiological reaction than you did, and then you had questions for her in order to explain her reaction instead of just projecting onto her what you think she must feel based on the expression that she had,
Right.
which is beautiful. And people have told me my entire life that I don't empathize correctly. I'm just having this thought right now.
This is beautiful.
Yeah, I've never had this thought.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm belly buttoning up to you here, like you're having a moment.
Yeah,
This is
because
great.
the next thought was like, actually, maybe it's easier to empathize with somebody if you have autism than
I have
because
often thought the same thing.
right?
Yes.
Like maybe there's something in there about that projection of like whatever we're going to define as what people are saying in so many dysfunctional ways. I'm an empath, so I know exactly what that feels like. Maybe it's easier to empathize if you're autistic than if you're an empath.
I think so. If we go with the definition of empath that culture typically defines, and I can't speak for your personal experience, but I don't know if you've had that same struggle that I have had, where as somebody with ADHD, there is, depending on the definition that we use, there is this connection between empathy and ADHD where it's easy for me to forget myself and to forget everything else that's going on and to be hyper focused on a moment.
Okay.
And so I get stuck inside of these moments. And so what the struggle was for me is somebody tells me a story that's deeply fixating. It's terribly traumatic, which is the first step of hypnosis. And so they tell me this story, and I'm in this story, and I'm seeing it from their perspective, and I've lost all objectivity because it's wired difficult for me to remain objective to my own experiences. I'm in theirs.
Okay.
And so I have had those moments and have had to work very hard because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but it's not helping. And I have to fix this if my clients are going to continue to trust me with the most sensitive information and stories that they have to share. And so for me, like this is a very difficult and very emotional topic because it's been particularly hard for me in particular.
So,
Particular.
yeah, that's great. Uh, it is particular.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is like you can so hyper focus in on somebody's story that it makes it difficult to empathize. And the more you've recognized that you are hyper focusing on their story, you need to almost take a step back in order to understand what their actual story is rather than maybe you being the protagonist in their story.
Yes, exactly. If
Yeah.
what I think is the cultural definition of empathy is feeling someone else's feelings as if they're your own.
Yeah.
Which, if that is the definition that we use, is also the definition of codependence, right? I am
Yeah.
feeling somebody else's feelings as if they are mine. If this person is not okay, I'm not okay. And so I remember, and I've told this story to interns many times, I remember days, it was actually, it was your birthday coming up, and everyone was kind of making like a little, like a little video of like, hey Zach, this is what I think about you. It was really sweet. But that morning, Joy had been upset about something. And so I knew I needed to record this video in order to get it done in time. But I'm crying in my office, that one right there. And so I'm on the floor, like, knees to my chin, back against the wall, like crying. And I'm like, I gotta clear my face up so I can record this damn video. But Joy was upset about something, and I'm like losing it. And I'm like, it's in that moment of like, I've got 10 minutes before my client walks in, and I've got to like figure myself out. And so I asked myself this question. I say, Jesse, is there anything that you are actually upset about? And I think to myself, I'm like, no. Me personally, am not upset about anything. I'm happy with the way that I acted and the way that I behaved. Like, I think I did the best with the situation that I had. I don't have any personal regret. Then it's like, then whose feelings are these? Like, they're Joy's. And I was like, and she's going through, it was her birthday. You two share a birthday month, and she was going through a lot with her birthday, and I was taking those feelings on as if they were my own. And it is terribly difficult. It is a very conscious process to separate myself from the feelings of others because I will lose myself in their feelings. And so in those moments, I have to say, are these actually yours? Do they belong to you? No, then you need to let them go. You're stealing them. Um, and so that's my experience. I do
Yeah.
not, and so that's probably why I speak about it so strongly. I do not find it helpful. In fact, I find it very difficult, if we're defining empathy in that way, to be an empath and a good therapist. It's quite a statement,
It really is.
but I
For
believe it.
for the people in the back,
Okay.
can you say that definition again? Because that was really beautiful. I like the example,
Yeah.
but I also want to have everybody hear. I mean, there's that definition. One is beautiful. Two is, it is, if that's true, that has an impact on things that I think that people need to think about in
Yeah.
so many other areas of life.
And I think we're heading in the wrong direction. So I'll say the definition and I'll say the solution. I think the cultural definition of empathy is to feel someone's feelings as if they are your own. I don't think that that's helpful. I think it's disrespectful. I think it's a lack of maturity on the counselor's part or the person's part. If this is your friend telling you their story and you
It's
feel it as if
dismissive.
they're your own, it's dismissive. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so I think the solution is I'm done with empathy. I don't use it. No, no, no. I mean it. I mean it. Like we can argue about this. I'm done. I'm done with it. Like, I'm violently, aggressively done with it because it is not a helpful term. There's never been a supervision session where I've encouraged my therapist to be more empathetic. I've encouraged them to be more observant. I've encouraged them to be more kind. I've encouraged them to be more intuitive and more thoughtful and more structured, more
For,
logical in their thinking. But I've never encouraged them to feel someone else's feelings as if they're their own. That is not helpful.
for everybody in the back.
I'm saying it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with that term. I've
Well,
never used it in a helpful context.
you know what comes up with me is
It's not even a clinical word.
it's really not. I uh, I have been in situations where my wife has been told by a white person, she is black,
Mm,
when she's describing a experience of racism, and the white person has said something
I can
along the
hear it
lines
coming.
of, right?
I can hear it freaking coming.
Say, oh, I know exactly how you feel.
I'm
And
gonna
then
explode.
they give a story about some situation where they've felt discrimination and
I'm not condoning violence, but metaphorically punch them in the teeth.
and that's what that feels like, is that definition of empathy is like, there's no way that I could experience what you're actually experiencing, but I'm going to tell you I experience exactly what you're experiencing.
I'm upset.
That is a very,
I'm
very quick
warm.
quick way. That's a quick way to dismiss your client's feeling and get lost in their trance, not help them and push them to doubling down on that trance.
Yeah.
I think that's dangerous. But now to give some people that may experience that pull to do that, one, I think that that's a trance in grad school.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that that's a trance in our society.
Yep.
I think that that's a trance in, our family structures. I think that that's a trance in our friendship, our romantic. I think that that's a very, very pervasive trance that we accept as a culture.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say it, speaking from my own experience of the more religious culture and sort of conservative culture, like both my wife and I grew up in very like Christian religious cultures, very Christian religious cultures. Some would call them cult-esque. And that's very much adored and encouraged, this empathy thing. And so, I mean, my wife and I have spent many years in couples counseling together to unlearn those trances that were given to us in childhood, of learning not to try and read each other's minds, of learning to say what you authentically mean, and then have a conversation about it as two people rather than trying to live inside of each other's heads. You know, the topic has also come up in my personal content for social media that empaths can often be the cheater in a relationship. So like, watch this unfold.
I saw this.
Will me talk about it?
I don't know. I don't know who. It's come up a couple of times, but yeah.
There's been a couple people who have stitched pretty prolific um, clinician on social media, and I've also kind of stitched it as well and given my own 2 cents. Um, the way that it works is if somebody is in this pathological definition of empathy, I feel someone else's feelings as if they're my own, and there's a problem in the relationship. And I need to communicate the problem in the relationship and show them the issue so they can feel that and wrestle with it and correct it. But instead, because I don't want to create more pain for them, because I also feel that pain, I hide it. And then as I hide it, monsters grow in the dark. And then I turn into this monster where I am fulfilling my relational, physical, emotional needs outside of the marriage or whatever relationship it is. And then I become the cheater.
I mean, it's easier that way. If the biggest goal or like focus is, I don't want to feel pain.
Well, and I think that's why, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but I think it's one of the contributing factors to why you see so many pastors in scandals,
I mean, that makes sense.
right? I mean, there's other factors I could talk about. Maybe that's a separate podcast, but certainly one of them is this foundational trance that is inside of the Christian religious community that empathy is the primary goal, and it certainly should not be. That's why I see a lot of codependence in the Christian church when it comes to relationships.
And I was about to say, and there's your connection to codependency.
Yeah.
I need you to feel a certain way.
Worse, it's my responsibility to make sure that you feel that certain way.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing that counselors believe when they walk into the therapy room. And that's what scares me, because I've seen that personally in my personal life, in my romantic life, in my professional life. And so I think I'm speaking so clearly because I don't want anyone to try and read between my lines. It is not helpful. I'm not using that term. I will only use that term as a way to correct errant thinking. So, what do we do instead?
Right.
What's your thoughts? I mean, I've got thoughts, but maybe you start.
I mean, I think that going back to my thought earlier about the new thought that I'm thinking about today is, I think that what works for me is I just want to know. And I think that insight and integration, with insight and integration, the client can do their own work to make it so that they can have a more authentic life. It's the authenticity that should be the goal. Feel the feeling, experience the feeling. Let's not change the feeling. And I think that when a lot of times when I'm not in like an interrogating kind of way, but in like a genuine curiosity, I'm saying like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is a really cool emotion. I see that it's scary for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me that it's scary for you. But when we can normalize that and we can say like, that's part of your human experience, I think that it changes from something that needs to be fixed to just something that can be there in the room. That's great.
I think people listen to your experience and they have no idea what to do with you.
Why is that?
And so
I do need a translator most of the time.
This will sometimes, and so maybe this will be a moment to brag on Zach for a minute. Of you have this gift and ability to do this in ways that I can authentically say that I've never met anyone who can do the trauma work that you do. And I think that's what attracted me to partnering with you on so many different things, because you have these natural gifts and abilities that other people adore and benefit from and appreciate, but they don't take the time to really try and understand, like, what is Zach doing that's different? And they try and just like listen to exactly the words that you're saying
and do that thing,
and then do that thing, and that's not it. You missed it. And so you are incredible in what you do because of some of the natural ways that you are, and you've taken the time to sharpen and perfect and hone those skills, which is truly admirable. And so, maybe the interpretation or translation that I'll give is when you're driving a car, you can feel what the car is doing. There's a little bit of a shake in the wheel, or the brakes kind of squeak, or it doesn't, the brakes don't clamp down the way that they should. And you can feel that the AC doesn't blow as cold as it is. And, we kind of embody the tools that we use. I think about a electrician who's trying to find, a screw behind the refrigerator. And so he's got their arm way behind there and they're feeling with the tip of that screwdriver. Their finger is not in that screwdriver, but they can feel through this tool. And that's very helpful. And that's kind of what we do for our clients is like, well, I have this information. Let me live inside of your world for a moment, but bringing with me myself into this moment, and I can feel what's going on. It's like when you hand the keys of your car to a mechanic. They're going to embody that vehicle as well and feel all of the vibrations and things that you're experiencing when you drive your car, but they have this added information that allows them to diagnose it and then go fix it in their garage. And so what counselors do when they get stuck in clients' trances is they also get rid of their knowledge and information and objectivity. And so it's like the mechanic forgetting everything they've learned about being a mechanic and then driving the car as if they're you. They get out of the car and they'll be like, well, it's broken, but I don't know what to do with it, because they only have the same information that you do. And so, I guess if we're going to try and rescue this term of empathy, perhaps what it means is setting aside your personal agenda to experience someone else's life, but bringing with it your authentic self too. So that way two heads can come up with a solution that perhaps one could not.
I don't think there's ever been a situation where a client hasn't just like, like the client then becomes like a pinger, like they're pinging off of me practical stuff to do.
Yeah.
If I'm just there saying like, this is, the thing that came up in my head when you said that was the client that I use with a lot of interns, because I realized one day that it like shocked them so many times. And the client that, just so for confidentiality reasons, had been forced to fight and kill children soldiers.
Yeah.
And one day they just broke down and was like, I don't know how many children I have killed. And that was the thing, and it was just like, and I think that false sense of empathy would have been like, oh my God, that must have been so bad. And my brain automatically went to, that is a really unique experience. I have no idea what that means.
I think that's it, because we say that in the course so much of, well, it depends. I don't know. I tell my clients all the time, I don't know, but I'm very confident we're going to figure it out together. And I think that is what scares most beginning counselors, because they have to check the I at the door.
Yeah. It's like, I honestly have no idea what that means. I don't know what it would be like to not know how many children you've killed. There's no concept in my head. And so we go deeper, and then he gets to the point of, this one kid looked about the age of my son. My son just turned this age.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's another point.
That's heavy.
What is that experience like? And
tell me about it.
When we get into that, then we get into a lot of other stuff that's where the healing happened. But when he brought that up, and then my reaction wasn't, oh my God, what do we do? How do we fix that? It was your job.
Yeah.
What else could you have done?
Yeah.
To try and like simmer down that emotion, and we were just like, yeah, that emotion can sit right here, man. That's welcome. Great. That's good. Like, have it sit right there.
And that's what we mean by holding space, but that's also a term that people have lost what it means.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah. let me try and put this example into terms that maybe other people resonate with. When you do what a typical counselor does, not what you did, and you're like, oh my gosh, that must have been so bad. I can see counselors who, when the client says, it reminds me of my son, who's the same age as the child soldier that, I had to eliminate. They won't ask any more questions because they know how painful that is. And they know that if they ask questions to explore, they're going to have to open that wound more. It's going to increase more pain, and that's going to make me feel bad too.
And what if the therapist has a
So
kid?
now I'm glossing over it. And what if the therapist has a kid?
And now we're to that unconscious projection too.
I've talked with therapists who say, I don't want to work with parents because it's too triggering for my stuff. And you know what? Like, I don't like that, but to be honest, I would
I
much
would
rather them
prefer that.
excuse themselves
Yeah.
than to pretend that they're going to be okay. And so the terms I want to put it in is, when you do that, you violate the client's consent.
100%.
You violate the client's consent. You do not give them the opportunity. By ignoring that and not asking more questions, and by assuming their emotions as your own, you do not give them the consent to process through their feelings in the way that they have chosen to. Maybe they do want to talk about it more, but because you're worried about it being an emotional topic, you avoid it. And so then you take away their consent without giving them the option to say, do you want to explore that some more? Or is it enough today just to tell me? And I find myself asking that often. Like, how would you like to go forward? I've had clients tell me they're like, it's going to take me a few sessions to open up. I'm like, yeah, take as long as you want, but I'd love to understand, like, why do you think that? They're like, well, my last therapist said that my trauma was so intense that they took it home with them and it was too much for them.
I've heard that before.
You've heard me tell this story before.
I've heard it from clients.
You've heard it, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you have a natural gift and ability to avoid that problem where other people fall into it.
Thanks.
And I admire that a lot about you. I do. So I hope that's some practical kind of examples. Maybe we can do a follow-up about like what specific things we do, what things we say to kind of get some memory working. Certainly don't follow exactly what we do, because if you are doing that, you're missing the greater point. There's a foundational difference here in the way that we are working with clients. We can provide examples, techniques, and tools, but unless we understand the foundational difference of empathy doesn't belong in the therapy room, there's a social media clip for you.
Yeah, right.
Then we're going to hurt our clients.
Mm-hmm.
If therapy is in the counseling room, we're going to hurt our clients. There's a better way to do it, and I would like to show you. Anything else to add?
That's
kind of out
great.
of time for today.
Yeah, that's great.
Topic to be explored.
Maybe we should spend some more time on this next time too.
Yeah, perhaps. I think it could be really good. Well,
I would love to hear reactions to that. And,
oh, yeah.
And if anybody is just like, well, my professor said, I would love to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. Hey, come on the podcast. Tell your professor to come on the podcast. I'd love it. That sounds good. I think we probably agree a lot more than you might realize.
Yeah.
I think we might just be using terms that have been co-opted and muddied. So, well, with that, please hit the follow button down below, subscribe, and please do, if you've got a counselor friend, if you've got a colleague that this topic has kind of come up, please share this video, even just like the time mark snippets that you want them to respond to, because this is a topic that I know both of us deeply believe in, and we need to create a greater conversation around it. So the best way to do that is by sharing it with those that you love. So please do let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you next time as we continue to explore the ways that we can make the world a better place to be in. Until then.
Bye.
Bye.